Well, Roger is just a well-rounded human being.
He's generous and forgiving, but also very clear.
He absolutely adores his family and his kids and his grandkids.
You always know what he's thinking, and he'll usually tell you.
Roger is unique.
He always tried to find a path to yes, to get an agreement. So he would be very creative in the way that he would do that.
Roger is not a patient person. For him, the walk don't walk sign is a suggestion.
Roger was born in Milwaukee in 1935. A self-described techie, his strengths were in math and science. He was so sure of his educational goals that he only applied to one college, MIT. While at MIT, Roger developed an interest in patent law. Following law school at Harvard, Roger and his beautiful new wife Brenda set out west, where he took a patent job at Chevron. This would be the first job in what was to be a long and successful career.
Given Roger's wonderful educational background, Harvard, MIT, and his long experience in Silicon Valley, spirit of innovation and creativity and drive, Roger has always embraced the latest in technological development.
He had his Fairchild time, which was in the formative stages of Silicon Valley, and then his Intel time, and then he was a very successful venture capitalist and started a number of important companies.
After Chevron, Roger joined a small law firm that represented Fairchild Semiconductor. It was then that Roger met Bob Noyce, a co-founder of Fairchild, who had earned the nickname the Mayor of Silicon Valley. Noyce saw Roger's tremendous talent immediately and convinced Roger to join Fairchild in 1963 as their first in-house patent lawyer. At Fairchild, Roger quickly became entrenched in the burgeoning electronics industry and legal issues surrounding intellectual property and patents.
Roger was, of course, one of the earliest intellectual property practitioners in the Valley, and a lot of what he did back in the day is still being felt. I mean, I recall, 25, 30 years later, looking at licenses he had written and he had signed because they were relevant to issues that were being litigated today or recently.
I would say his best quality is really that you always know where you stand.
He is straightforward and honest and will always tell you what's on his mind. Absolutely no questions asked.
Roger had a unique talent to drive the other side in a case crazy. His style at the pretrial back and forth is pretty much an attorney's rope-a-dope. The other side never really knew what they were swinging at.
From a negotiation standpoint, he would be the best one to put up against Trump.
One of the great things about Roger is there was never any hierarchy. He was happy to work with a first-year associate as much as with a seasoned principal.
He was a joy to work with, and I think that was his best trait.
In 1974, Roger moved to Intel as VP and General Counsel at the urging of his close friend, Bob Noyce. At Intel, Roger worked with kindred spirits. He recalled a meeting where someone made the observation that people who go upstairs two at a time get ahead. Gordon Moore, co-founder of Intel, went upstairs two at a time, and so did Roger.
Roger thinks at a very high speed and wants to get to the right answer very quickly, and you've got to be able to respond in Roger time. Real time wasn't often fast enough. There's Roger time, which is a level above real time.
His attention span, is not measured in nanoseconds or picoseconds. It's like in femtoseconds.
Playing golf with Roger is an experience. At least you play quickly. He doesn't wait very much for anybody or anything. But it's really interesting. He'll hit his tee shot into the bunker, top the ball coming out, hit his third shot left of the green, chip up and two putt, because the second putt's always a gimme. Then he'll look around and say, okay, who else had a par? And that's Roger.
Someone had stolen Intel trade secrets, and he had a national engineer that was going to go undercover to help them catch the thief, basically. And the night before, the national engineer says, I could get killed for this. I'm not going to do it. But Roger, using his creative abilities, he says, you know what? I know an engineer who's going to law school at night who will probably do a favor for the legal department. And so he asked me to be the undercover agent, and actually I was wired for sound. The police were out in the parking lot, and the code word was, "It's a deal." And so when they heard "it's a deal," I thought it was going to be like on TV, they just bust through the door. Well, I mean, they're out in the parking lot, they weren't sure if I said "it's a deal" or "there's a deal" or what it was, and so I said, "It's a deal, it's a deal." And after, it was a long 2 minutes of my life, but eventually they came and were arrested, and then were tried and convicted.
After leaving Intel, Roger founded the West Coast office of VC firm Seven, Rosen, Borovoy, and then practiced law at Brown & Bain before he joined Fish & Richardson. No matter where he went, Roger knew how to make an entrance.
And Roger is coming into the meeting. His head is down, staring at a piece of paper, and he walks full speed right into the glass wall of the conference room. And the door's here, wall's here, bam, right into the wall. I don't think he broke his nose, but his nose, there's blood going everywhere, blood streaming down. He doesn't miss a beat. He walks into the conference room. He's still looking down. He says hello quickly to everybody in the room, and then says, "Now, whose brilliant idea was to hire these no-good-nicks out of Dallas and Chicago?"
For 22 years, Roger has been an important part of Fish, expanding Fish's client base in Silicon Valley and growing Fish's reputation around the world.
He brought a lot of very interesting work and relationships to partners of the firm. His reputation, his contacts, the quality of the work that he's known for, the integrity with which he does his work, gives advice.
He's given great opportunities to young attorneys making their way early in their career.
He sets a great standard for what you can aspire to do with a career and with a life in Silicon Valley. I remember in the early stages of my career was you couldn't go into a restaurant anywhere around here without 10 people stopping Roger because everybody knew him.
The best advice Roger ever gave me was also the worst advice he ever gave me. And that was to answer questions accurately, but not offer anything in addition. Now, that's the best advice for dealing with testimony, but it's terrible advice when dealing with your wife.
The other sort of great rule that Roger always had early on when it comes to making arguments is he called it KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And he gave this illustration of, I think early in his career, he walked into his boss's office and said, "I have great news. We have 5 defenses to this lawsuit." And his boss looked at him and said, "Now I know we're in trouble."
Whenever you're giving legal advice, you need to consider the business context that you're giving it in.
The best advice Roger ever gave me was answer the phone, answer the email now, even if you don't want to. It will only get worse.
He also helped us get our first house. He knew we were shopping for a house, and he called us up Memorial Day weekend of 1999, and I remember him saying, "David, it's your real estate agent." And I kind of thought about it and thought, okay, Roger, I didn't know you had a second career, but let me hear it. And he mentioned that he was out on a walk with his daughter and was showing his daughter's fiance the house that his daughter was born in. And they saw a for sale sign. And so he called us and told us to go look at the house. And back in those days, every house in Silicon Valley had 10 or 15 bids on it. And so we wrote a letter to the seller about how my close mentor had lived in this house in the 1960s and started his family there. And because of that, we were able to get the house. I learned a tremendous amount from Roger about how to negotiate, when to hold them and when to fold them.
I have been blessed in my career to have several excellent mentors. And Roger is the one who had mentored me into the longest part of my career. I've been working as a patent analyst at Adobe for about 29 years, but who's counting? And I credit my success in that area to Roger.
All I can say is that he's, been a great friend, a great mentor, and proud to know him.
I just wish Roger the finest retirement possible.
What I would like for Roger is that he take care of himself and that he live long.
Brenda, he's all yours now.